So this next question is just going to be an open explosion of what are your other favorite frameworks or approaches to engineering leadership? So when you're thinking about like principles that you've applied or frameworks that have helped change how you approach leadership, this is just an invitation. What are your favorites? Let us know.
The one thing that had a significant impact on me in terms of leadership is the moment that I realized that it's just not one thing. So this is a favorite question they ask you: what's your leadership style? Right? It's a lot of interviews will talk about that. A lot of people who's interested in leadership will ask that question. I tend to think that that was a style. I adopted this thinking. It's actually there is no one style. There's this a suite, and then you get it's almost like these hats. You get to wear them depending on the situation, and it's your inventory what matters, what kind of matters for your leadership style. So you have this a coaching hat that you need to be really observant, and you put the hat on when the time is right, and you need to be democratic. You got to put that hat on, and there's this pace setting. Like you realize the team needs that, and you put the hat on. There are I think enough studies that tells us what type of leadership works for, say, engineering organizations, most efficient, effective ones. And if you were to just wear a pace-setting hat all the time, you possibly burn your own team out. But kind of just realizing that's actually not one thing and many things, and figuring out the art is figuring out which one to use when. It's like almost like whenever you're going, just need to be careful which hat you're wearing.
That's both illuminating and I think relieving for a lot of folks because that also kind of reinforces the implication that leadership is not a single style or rather like inherited, but rather it's a series of different skills or capabilities that you can learn and acquire through practice. And then the ability to be malleable and dynamic with being able to try on some of those different roles is so important.
And I can actually give it even a framework, like application framework. I tend to try to, and it's hard to always have this one, but try to enter a meeting first by centering and then entering. And when you're like centering right before the meeting, just a couple of questions you can ask yourself. You could ask yourself like, what does this meeting require from me, from my leadership, or like what do people I'm going to meet with require from me? So asking these type of questions will require to kind of understand what's needed, and you can use the right style for the right moment. So that's like how you can put it in application. It's hard, of course. We surf, Zoom surfing throughout the day from one to another, but like that's a very valuable minute to spend.
Ali, what about you? What are your favorite, or if you have to pick, a framework around engineering leadership that's made a big impact on you?
Yeah. So for me, showing up as a human being in all of my interactions with people is something very core to how I lead. A lot of my job is, getting buy-in, building trust, building empathy and understanding, and community. Like all of those things require me to be approachable, both, in terms of, communication, but also, emotionally so. And so setting that stage for people so, I can be a better leader and then they can meet me where I'm at, right? Because we're trying to build a team culture where they feel like they can be themselves and everyone can be comfortable and like feel comfortable raising concerns and creating space for that. That's ultimately like what I want in my communities. I want people to be supporting one another, and if you don't have a culture of of sharing your emotions or sharing your feelings or thoughts, you're not going to get any of those inputs that you need. And I strongly believe that, emotions have a place in the workplace, and that, those really drive flagging, what direction you might need to go, right? If something like, oh gosh, there's this big technical problem, I'm really stressed out about it. Like that probably means you should do something about it. There's something behind that emotion. And so being able to express that and having a space for that is important. And as a leader, I feel like I need to, provide that space for people. I make a point of doing things like talking about going to therapy. That's something that I want people to feel comfortable, sharing in the event that they need space for that at work, or take time off from work. So yeah, vulnerable leadership for me is really at the core of a lot of what I do. And it's a strategy that works really well for me. So strongly recommend it to anyone else.